Did you know some of the ancient Greek myths may not be as fictional as we thought? From gods who wielded unimaginable power to mortals whose extraordinary feats left lasting marks on history. Many stories once considered mere legends might actually hold hidden truths. Today, we dive into the myths you never knew could be rooted in reality. Could ancient Greek tales have been inspired by real events? Let's find out as we unravel the fascinating history behind these timeless stories. The Trojan War is one of the most famous stories in Greek mythology, known for its dramatic battles, heroic figures like Achilles, and the famous Trojan horse that tricked the Trojans into accepting Greek invaders. It's a tale of love, betrayal, and destiny, immortalized in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. But what if the story is more than just a myth? Historians and archaeologists have long debated the truth behind the Trojan War. Could this epic battle between the Greeks and the Trojans have actually occurred? The answer may surprise you. Recent archaeological discoveries at the site of ancient Troy in modern-day Turkey suggest that a war did indeed take place. Possibly around the 12th century BC, the ruins at Hisarlik, believed to be the ancient city of Troy, show evidence of a city that was destroyed by fire. Even more compelling is that these ruins correspond to the same time period described in the mythological tales of the Trojan War. Scholars have uncovered layers of destruction in the city's remains, indicating that Troy was a thriving city before it was reduced to rubble. The evidence of warfare is clear: collapsed walls, weapons, and even the bones of warriors. In particular, the evidence from the late Bronze Age suggests that Troy was not just a mythological city, but a real place that faced a brutal siege. Whether or not the war was fought over Helen of Sparta, as the myths suggest, it's clear that something catastrophic happened here. The myth of the Trojan horse, which has fascinated generations, may also have roots in reality. While the story suggests that the Greeks used a wooden horse to infiltrate the city, historians believe this could be a symbolic representation of a siege tactic used during the war. Some theorize that the horse could refer to a siege tower, which the Greeks may have used to breach the walls of Troy. Though the literal horse may not have existed, the idea of using trickery to enter a heavily fortified city seems plausible. The mythological aspects of the story, such as the involvement of gods like Zeus, Apollo, and Athena, remain difficult to prove in historical terms. However, the human conflict described in the tale of war between two great civilizations may indeed have had a real-world basis. Ancient texts and oral traditions passed down over generations might have exaggerated the details, but the core of the story is grounded in a historical event. What makes the Trojan War even more fascinating is how it reflects the social and political realities of ancient Greece and its neighboring civilizations. The story captures themes of heroism, sacrifice, and the complexity of human emotions, which still resonate with us today. While the gods may have played their part in the myth, it's clear that the warriors, both Greek and Trojan, were the true heroes of the tale, fighting for their survival, honor, and legacy. So, while we may never know the full truth behind the Trojan War, the evidence suggests that the myth was not entirely a work of fiction. The city of Troy was real, and it experienced a destructive event that could very well have inspired the stories we know today. Whether or not the heroes of the Iliad were truly as larger-than-life as Homer described, their struggles reflect the timeless nature of war and the human spirit. The legend of Atlantis has captivated imaginations for thousands of years. Described by the philosopher Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Atlantis was an advanced civilization that existed around 9,000 years before Plato's time. According to the story, Atlantis was a powerful and technologically advanced society, but its people grew corrupt and greedy, leading to their downfall. The island was said to sink into the sea overnight, vanishing without a trace. For centuries, Atlantis was considered a mere myth, a fantastical tale designed to teach lessons about hubris and the dangers of excessive power. However, modern discoveries and theories have led some to believe that the story of Atlantis might have a basis in historical fact. Could there have been a real civilization that disappeared in a cataclysmic event? Let's explore the evidence that suggests Atlantis may not be just a tale of imagination. The first clue lies in Plato's account itself, while many dismissed it as allegorical. The level of detail in Plato's descriptions was far too specific for a purely fictional story. Plato described Atlantis as a large island with a complex system of canals, grand palaces, and monumental structures, along with a rich and sophisticated society. He even mentioned its location beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar. This pointed to a place far away from Greece, possibly in the Atlantic Ocean. Over time, archaeologists have suggested that Atlantis could have been inspired by real events. One theory links the story to the Minoan civilization, which thrived on the island of Crete during the Aegean Bronze Age. The Minoans were known for their advanced architecture, art, and technology. They built large palaces, such as the one at Knossos, which had a labyrinth-like design, similar to Plato's description of Atlantis. The Minoans also had an impressive naval fleet, and their influence spread throughout the Mediterranean. But around 1450 BCE, their civilization was destroyed by a catastrophic event. The eruption of the Thera volcano on the island of Santorini, located near Crete, is believed to have caused massive earthquakes and tsunamis that devastated the Minoan civilization. The eruption was one of the largest volcanic events in recorded history, and it left behind a layer of ash that has been found in archaeological digs around the Mediterranean. The destruction of Santorini and the subsequent downfall of the Minoan civilization shares remarkable similarities to the myth of Atlantis. The suddenness and scale of the disaster could have inspired the tale of an island sinking into the sea. Another intriguing possibility is that the story of Atlantis was based on the real-life collapse of civilizations due to natural disasters. In ancient times, cities and cultures often flourished in regions prone to earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic activity. When these civilizations were hit by such disasters, their destruction could have seemed so total that it appeared as though they had vanished into thin air. Over time, these events could have been passed down as legends, evolving into the story of Atlantis. Yet, despite the theories, no concrete evidence has been found to confirm the existence of Atlantis. Archaeologists have scoured the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and other locations in search of the lost city. But so far, no definitive proof has been uncovered. Some believe that Atlantis could be located beneath the waters off the coast of the Azores or in the Caribbean, while others suggest that the city could have been located in the Canary Islands or even Antarctica. However, the idea of Atlantis remains a symbol of lost potential and the fragility of civilizations. The story continues to inspire explorers, researchers, and storytellers, sparking a desire to uncover the truth behind the myth. Whether Atlantis was a real place or a cautionary tale, the myth endures as a testament to the power of storytelling and humanity's fascination with the unknown. While the mystery of Atlantis may never be fully solved, the legend serves as a reminder of the ancient Greeks' ability to blend history with mythology. In a time when the boundaries between the two were often blurred, the tale of Atlantis stands out as one of the most enduring and intriguing mysteries of the ancient world. Medusa, one of the most famous figures in Greek mythology, is often remembered as a terrifying creature with snakes for hair, whose gaze could turn anyone to stone. But what if Medusa's story was more complex, and perhaps even grounded in real events? The myth of Medusa and the Gorgons has fascinated people for centuries, yet the history behind this myth might reveal something much deeper. In the original myth, Medusa was a beautiful woman who caught the eye of the sea god Poseidon. However, in some versions of the story, Medusa was punished by Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. For having an affair with Poseidon in Athena's temple, Athena transformed Medusa into a hideous monster, with snakes for hair and a deadly gaze that could turn anyone who looked at her into stone. Medusa's two sisters, Steno and Euryale, were also Gorgons, immortal beings with similar monstrous features. The tale culminates with the hero Perseus slaying Medusa by using a reflective shield to avoid her deadly gaze, cutting off her head and using it as a weapon. But behind the monstrous image of Medusa lies a more complex story that may have roots in historical events. Some scholars believe that the Gorgon myth could have been inspired by real people and places in the ancient world. The earliest depictions of Gorgons in Greek art show a striking resemblance to the masks used in Greek theater. These masks were often exaggerated, with bulging eyes and grotesque features, designed to invoke fear in the audience. It's possible that the Gorgon image was not meant to represent a literal creature, but rather an embodiment of fear and power. A symbol used in art and myth to communicate something far more profound. Another possibility is that Medusa's story was influenced by the ancient practice of headhunting. In many cultures around the world, including those of the ancient Near East, severed heads were seen as trophies of war. These heads were often displayed as symbols of power, victory, and dominance. The image of Medusa, with her severed head being used as a weapon, could be a representation of this practice. The Gorgon's deadly gaze, which could turn people to stone, might symbolize the power and fear associated with the display of such trophies. Medusa's decapitation by Perseus could be a reflection of the process of removing the power of the enemy by rendering them harmless. Another theory suggests that Medusa's transformation into a monster was a metaphor for the experience of women in ancient Greece. In some versions of the myth, Medusa's punishment was seen as a reflection of the misogynistic attitudes of the time. Her transformation from a beautiful woman into a monster could symbolize how women who were seen as too powerful or too beautiful were often punished or demonized in ancient societies. Medusa's curse could be seen as a warning against women who defied societal norms or who had the ability to captivate and control the attention of men. However, the historical context behind the Medusa myth may also lie in the early Greek interactions with foreign cultures. The Gorgon, with its monstrous features and otherworldly qualities, might have been inspired by the terrifying creatures seen in the art and mythology of neighboring cultures. The ancient Greeks had contact with various peoples, including the Egyptians and the Persians, who had their own mythological creatures and gods. The idea of a terrifying monster like Medusa could have been borrowed and adapted from these cultures. Taking on its own unique form in Greek mythology, the tale of Medusa's death and the slaying of the Gorgon also highlights the heroic ideals of ancient Greek society. Perseus, a demigod and son of Zeus, was the archetype of a Greek hero, brave, resourceful, and capable of overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. His quest to slay Medusa and the Gorgons reflects the Greek emphasis on heroism and the triumph of good over evil, a recurring theme in their myths. Though the myth of Medusa and the Gorgons may be rooted in ancient traditions, the deeper meaning behind the story continues to captivate us. Whether Medusa's transformation was symbolic of societal fears, political power, or even gender dynamics, the myth speaks to universal themes of punishment, power, and heroism. It is not just a tale of a monster slain by a hero. It is a story of transformation, fear, and the lasting impact of myth on our understanding of history. The story of Orpheus and Eurydice is one of the most heartbreaking and tragic myths in Greek mythology. It's a tale of love, loss, and the inevitable power of fate. Orpheus, a legendary musician and poet, was gifted with the ability to charm anyone with his music. His talents were so extraordinary that even inanimate objects like trees and rocks would move in response to his melodies. His love for Eurydice, a beautiful nymph, was profound, and their bond seemed unbreakable. But their love story, like so many in Greek mythology, was doomed to end in tragedy. The story begins with Orpheus and Eurydice's wedding. However, just as the couple was beginning their new life together, disaster struck. Eurydice, while walking through a meadow, was bitten by a venomous snake and died from the bite. Stricken with grief, Orpheus was inconsolable. Unable to live without his beloved Eurydice, he decided to descend into the underworld to bring her back. This was no small feat, for the underworld was a place from which no mortal returned. Orpheus, undeterred by the danger, made his way to the realm of Hades, the god of the underworld. Armed with only his music, Orpheus played such a mournful and beautiful song that even the gods of the underworld, Hades and Persephone, were moved by his music. The tale is told that Hades, touched by Orpheus's love and grief, agreed to let Eurydice return to the living. There was one condition. However, Orpheus was forbidden from looking back at Eurydice until they had both reached the world above. If he looked back even once, she would be lost to him forever. As Orpheus and Eurydice ascended back to the surface, Orpheus, overcome with doubt and fear, could not resist the temptation to look back. At that moment, as Eurydice's spirit was still emerging from the underworld, she was pulled back into the realm of the dead, forever lost to Orpheus. Devastated by his failure to follow the one rule, Orpheus wandered the earth in despair, vowing never to love again. While the story of Orpheus and Eurydice is often seen as a tragic romance, it may also reflect a deeper cultural commentary on the human condition and the relationship between love and loss. The myth explores the universal experience of grief, the desire to overcome death for the sake of love, and the tragic consequences of defying the natural order. The myth raises important questions. Can love truly conquer death? And if it does, at what cost? What makes Orpheus's story even more poignant is the fact that his talent was his downfall. His music, which had once brought joy and beauty to the world, was now a tool of sorrow and tragedy. It was his music that first moved the gods to pity, yet it was also his inability to follow the simple condition that resulted in his loss. The story of Orpheus is a reminder that even the greatest talents and the purest love cannot defy the inevitability of fate. Moreover, the tale of Orpheus and Eurydice has been interpreted in various ways throughout history. In some versions, Orpheus is seen as a symbol of the power of art, music, and poetry. His journey to the underworld can be interpreted as an allegory for the artist's struggle to understand life, death, and the human experience. His failure to bring Eurydice back may represent the artist as ultimate struggle to create something that transcends the limitations of human experience. The inability to save Eurydice from the underworld, despite Orpheus's extraordinary talents, can be seen as a reflection of the artist's powerlessness in the face of death and the transient nature of life itself. The myth has inspired countless works of art, music, literature, and theater over the centuries. From operas to poems, Orpheus and Eurydice's tragic love story has resonated deeply with audiences. One of the most famous adaptations is the opera Orpho, Ede or Eurydice by Christoph Willibald Gluck, which explores the themes of love, loss, and redemption. The myth also found its way into the works of composers like Monteverdi and more recently. In the modern world, it has inspired artists across various mediums to explore similar themes of love, fate, and the human condition. Ultimately, the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice encapsulates the fragility of love and the inevitability of loss. It teaches us that even the greatest of loves cannot overcome the limitations of human mortality. No matter how much Orpheus tried to resist fate, it was always destined to play its part in his life. The tragedy lies not in the fact that Orpheus lost Eurydice, but in the realization that love, no matter how strong, is not immune to the natural forces of the world. The myth of Icarus, the son of the brilliant inventor Daedalus, is one of the most poignant stories in Greek mythology. Daedalus crafted wings made of feathers and wax for himself and his son to escape imprisonment. In Crete, he warned Icarus not to fly too high or too low. However, overcome by excitement and ambition, Icarus soared too close to the sun. The heat melted the wax in his wings, causing him to fall into the sea and drown. Icarus's tragic fall symbolizes the dangers of unchecked ambition and the consequences of ignoring wisdom. His desire to fly higher and break free of limits reflects the universal human desire for freedom and transcendence. But it also serves as a warning. Without caution, even the most brilliant dreams can lead to disaster. The myth has inspired countless works of art and literature, often seen as a metaphor for the risks of ambition, highlighting the need to balance dreams with practical wisdom. Though tragic, Icarus' story remains a powerful reminder of the fragility of human aspirations and the importance of recognizing our limits.